This man is one of the men whose wives slept with Baltasar in Gonga. This man is well known in the country of Guinea as one of the people who worked for a long time in the mining industry. However, today this man no longer lives with his wife after seeing the video of her with Baltasar. Listen to how it all unfolded for this man.
I never thought I'd be telling this story. I've spent years working in Equatorial Guinea's mining sector, building a life with my wife, whom I've been with since 2012. We had our struggles, as all couples do, but I believed we were solid until I learned about him. His name is Baltasar in Gonga, a man notorious for wrecking families. People whispered about him in bars, in offices, in mining camps. He had a reputation for seducing married women, recording his conquests, and leaving destruction in his wake. I never imagined that one day, his name would be tied to my own pain. It started with small signs. My wife, once warm and devoted, became distant. She started dressing differently, paying more attention to her appearance when she went out. She'd come home late, her phone always locked. I convinced myself it was just stress, the strain of our lives. But deep down, I knew something was wrong. Then, one night, a friend, one of those rare loyal ones, called me. His voice was tense. "Brother, I don't know how to say this, but I saw her. Your wife. She was with him." At first, I refused to believe it. But when he sent me the video, my world crumbled. There she was, in a luxurious hotel, wrapped around Baltasar in Gonga. The man who had already destroyed so many marriages had now taken mine. He recorded everything, her laughter, her betrayal, the moment she chose him over the life we built together. I met Isabel in 2012, back when I was still an ambitious young man trying to make a name for myself in Equatorial Guinea's booming mining industry. I had just started working as a mining engineer, and my focus was on securing a stable future. She was different from anyone I had ever met, smart, kind, and incredibly beautiful. I remember the first time I saw her at a small cafe in Malabo, where she worked as a bank teller. She had this radiant smile, the kind that made you forget your worries. I was nervous approaching her, but I took my shot. "A beautiful woman like you must have many men chasing her," I said, trying to be charming. She laughed. "And yet, none of them had the courage to sit down like you just did." That was the beginning of everything. Our relationship moved fast. We spent weekends by the beaches of Sepopo, walking hand in hand as we talked about our dreams. She wanted a family, stability, love. I promised her all of it. By 2015, we were married. I had risen through the ranks in the mining sector, earning enough to give us a comfortable life. We moved into a beautiful house in Bata, and for a while, life was perfect. Or so I thought. Years passed, and my work demanded more of my time. Mining is a tough industry, long hours, remote locations. I did my best to balance it, to be a good husband, but something started to change in Isabel. She became more distant, always on her phone, always dressing up for girls' nights that she never used to have. I ignored the red flags, convincing myself that it was just a phase. Then came the name I never wanted to hear. Baltasar in Gonga. I had heard of Baltasar in Gonga before. Everyone in the industry knew him, a powerful businessman with a dark reputation. He wasn't just rich, he was a predator. Rumors swirled about how he had seduced over 200 women, many of them married. He was known for filming his conquest, using his wealth and influence to manipulate and destroy families. I never thought he would come for mine. The night I found out, I was working late at a mining site when my phone rang. It was my friend, his voice heavy. "You need to come to Malabo now." Confused, I asked why. "It's Isabel. She's with Baltasar. And there's a video." My heart stopped. I drove through the night, my mind racing. When I arrived, my friend handed me his phone. The screen played a video of my wife, my Isabel, in a hotel room with him. Laughing. Kissing. Undressing. I felt my soul leave my body. The next morning, I went home. Isabel was already there, looking at me like she knew what was coming. I held up the phone. "How long?" She hesitated, then whispered, "A few months." months. My voice cracked. Was everything a lie? She shook her head. I never wanted to hurt you. But he made me feel alive. Alive. That word. As if the life we built wasn't enough. I packed my things that day and left. I couldn't stay in the house that now felt like a graveyard of broken promises. Baltasar in Ganga had won again. Another family shattered, another marriage destroyed. And my wife? She became just another name on his long list of conquests. But this story isn't just about betrayal. It's about resilience. Because I refused to let one man's darkness define my future. When I walked out of that house, I had no plan, just a bag with some clothes and my phone. My mind was numb. The pain of betrayal was like a heavy stone in my chest, making every step feel like I was sinking deeper into the ground. I didn't want to go to a friend's house. I didn't want pity or whispered conversations about how my wife had become another victim of Baltasar in Ganga. So, I drove. I ended up in Punta Europa, where many oil and mining workers stayed when they weren't in the field. I checked into a small hotel, paid for a week, and locked myself in my room. For the first 2 days, I barely ate. I stared at the ceiling, replaying everything in my head, our first date, our wedding day, the nights we spent laughing together. Then the image of her in his arms. I wanted answers, but what could she say that would fix this? On the third night, I left the hotel and walked into a bar. I drank more than I should have. I wanted to drown the pain, to forget her, to erase the video from my mind. That's when I heard his name again. 2 men at the bar were laughing, talking about Baltasar in Ganga, about how he had stolen another man's wife. They were talking about me. Something inside me snapped. I walked up to them, my fists clenched. Say that again, I growled. One of them smirked. Relax, Hamano. You're not the first man to lose his wife to him. I don't remember throwing the first punch, but I remember the pain in my knuckles, the shouts, the bartender pulling us apart. When I stumbled back to my hotel, bruised and bleeding, I realized something. I was wasting myself on pain. The next morning, I made a decision. I had to leave Malabo. Leave the memories. Leave Isabel. I packed my things and drove to Mongomo, near the Gabonese border. A friend of mine owned a small mining operation there, and I asked for work. I needed to be anywhere but where she was. Mongomo was quiet, far from the chaos of Malabo and Bata. I worked long hours, losing myself in the dirt, the machines, the sweat. The physical exhaustion helped numb the emotional pain. 2 months later, my phone rang. It was Isabel. I let it ring. Then again. And again. Finally, I picked up. I miss you, she whispered. I closed my eyes. I wanted to believe her. But I knew the truth, she was just another name on Baltasar in Ganga's list. I took a deep breath. Goodbye, Isabel. And for the first time in months, I felt free. Hanging up on Isabel was one of the hardest things I had ever done, but it was necessary. I couldn't let her drag me back into the past. I had spent 2 months in Mongomo, working in a small mining operation, trying to rebuild my life. The physical labor helped, but at night, the silence brought back the memories. I spent most of my evenings alone, drinking in my small rented apartment. The betrayal still haunted me, but at least in Mongomo, no one whispered about Baltasar in Ganga or laughed behind my back. Then one day, an opportunity came. One of the engineers in our mining operation was leaving, and my boss, an old friend, offered me the position. It paid well, and it meant I could finally focus on something other than my pain. I took it without hesitation. With the extra money, I started making plans for my future again. For the first time since leaving Isabel, I felt like I was moving forward. But life wasn't done testing me yet. 3 months after leaving Malabo, I was in my office when one of the workers told me someone was outside asking for me. When I stepped out, my heart nearly stopped. It was Isabel. She looked different, thinner, tired, like life had drained something out of her. What are you doing here? I asked coldly. She hesitated. Can we talk? I almost turned away, but something in her eyes made me pause. Against my better judgment, I agreed. We sat at a small cafe nearby. The silence between us was heavy. Finally, she spoke. I made a mistake, she said, her voice shaking. Baltasar, he wasn't what I thought he was. I laughed bitterly. What did you think he was, Isabel? A prince? A savior? She looked down, ashamed. He used me. Just like he used all the others. I didn't say anything. I already knew. He recorded everything, she continued, her voice breaking. He threatened to release the videos unless I kept seeing him. When I tried to leave, he moved on to another woman, just like that. Like I never mattered. I clenched my fists under the table. I hated Baltasar for what he had done, but I hated Isabel more for letting it happen. What do you want from me? I finally asked. She reached for my hand, but I pulled away. I just wanted you to know. And I wanted to say I'm sorry. For a moment, I saw the woman I had fallen in love with. The woman I had built a life with. But she was no longer mine. I stood up. I hope you find peace, Isabel. But I can't be part of your story anymore. She nodded, tears in her eyes, and I walked away. That was the last time I saw her. After that, I focused entirely on my work. I started investing in small mining projects, slowly building something of my own. The pain never fully disappeared, but it became a lesson, one that made me stronger. Baltasar in Ganga continued his ways, but I no longer cared. He had taken my wife, but he hadn't taken my future. And that, in the end, was all that mattered. Looking back, I've asked myself that question 1,000 times, what caused Isabel to cheat on me? At first, I blamed Baltasar in Ganga completely. He was a predator, a man who thrived on seduction and destruction. But as time passed, I realized that while he played a role, the truth was more complicated. Here are the possible reasons. Working in Equatorial Guinea's mining industry meant long hours, frequent trips, and exhaustion. I spent more time in mining camps and offices than at home. Maybe, over time, she felt neglected or lonely. But then again, loneliness is not an excuse to betray someone. Baltasar wasn't just an ordinary man, he was powerful, connected, and wealthy. He had influence, luxury, and a reputation that some women found irresistible. Maybe Isabel got caught up in the fantasy, seduced by the excitement and status he represented. Some people crave excitement even when they have a stable and loving relationship. Maybe our marriage had become routine for her. Maybe she wanted the thrill of something forbidden. But again, a mature person communicates their needs, they don't betray their partner. Baltasar knew how to manipulate women. He had done it to hundreds before. Maybe Isabel wasn't strong enough to resist. Maybe he promised her things that made her feel special, made her believe she was different. But in the end, she was just another name on his list. The hardest truth to accept is this: maybe she was never truly the woman I believed her to be. Love can blind us. Maybe I saw her as loyal, kind, and committed, but deep down, she had a weakness for temptation that I never noticed. And that's what hurts the most. I will never have a perfect answer. But what I do know is this: cheating is a choice. No matter the reason, she made a decision to betray me. And in the end, she lost more than I did. Because while I moved on and rebuilt my life, she was left with nothing but regret. Can I forgive Isabel? Can we be together again? Forgiveness is one thing. Forgetting is another. And taking her back? That's something else entirely. Have I forgiven her? With time, I've learned to let go of the anger. Carrying hate in my heart only harmed me, not her. So, yes, I forgive Isabel for what she did. I forgive her for the betrayal, the lies, the humiliation. But forgiving doesn't mean forgetting. And it definitely doesn't mean welcoming her back into my life. Can we be together again? No. And not because I still hate her, I don't. The real reason is simple: trust is broken, and once it's shattered, it never returns the same way. Even if she begged, even if she changed, even if she swore it would never happen again, how could I ever believe her? Every time she went out, every time she got a message, every time she was late, I would wonder. That's not love. That's torture. What if she truly regrets it? I believe she does. I believe she suffers for her mistake. But that's her burden to carry, not mine. She threw away everything we built for a man who never cared about her. And now she has to live with that. I have moved on. I deserve better. Final answer. No, I will never go back to Isabel. Not because I'm bitter, but because I respect myself too much to return to someone who betrayed me. She was my past. My future is mine to build without her. Divorce is the only option. She is free to marry whoever she wants. Once trust is broken, once love is replaced by betrayal, there is no marriage left to save. Will I let Isabel marry another man? I don't have to let her do anything. She is free to make her own choices, just like she chose to betray me. If she finds another man who is willing to trust her after what she did, that's his problem, not mine. Divorce is the only option. Marriage is built on love, trust, and loyalty. Isabel broke all three. There is nothing left between us but the past. So, yes, I would divorce her immediately. I don't believe in holding on to someone who doesn't value me. Let her go. Let her marry whoever she wants. Let her live with her choices. As for me, I will move forward, stronger and wiser. A man like Baltasar in Ganga doesn't just seduce women, he plays a psychological game. He isn't interested in just any woman, he specifically targets the wives of powerful, influential, or respected men. Why? Here are the main reasons. Power and ego. He thrives on dominance. For men like Baltasar, it's not just about the woman, it's about the man she belongs to. Seducing the wife of a strong, respected man makes him feel powerful, like he is above other men. Every time he steals another man's wife, he thinks he has conquered him. It's his way of proving to himself and others that he is more powerful than the husband. Psychological warfare. He enjoys watching strong men suffer. Baltasar doesn't just cheat, he destroys. He doesn't stop at seduction, he records it, flaunts it, and ensures that the betrayed husband finds out in the most painful way possible. He enjoys breaking powerful men. Watching a strong man fall apart over a woman feeds his twisted sense of superiority. The thrill of the challenge. He prefers what he shouldn't have. Ordinary women bore him. He wants what is forbidden, what belongs to another man. The harder the woman is to get, the more satisfying the victory feels to him. For him, it's like hunting, the bigger the prey, the greater the achievement. Weak women are easier to manipulate. Most of the women he seduces are already in secure marriages with influential men, which means they are used to a certain lifestyle. He knows their weaknesses. They might feel lonely because their husbands are always working. They might crave excitement outside of their routine. They might be flattered by the attention of a powerful man. He manipulates them, makes them feel special, and convinces them to betray their husbands before moving on to his next target. 5. Revenge and jealousy. Maybe he hates other powerful men. Maybe Baltasar wasn't always rich or powerful. Maybe he once felt inferior to these men, and now his way of getting revenge is by humiliating them. Instead of competing in business, politics, or influence, he competes in destruction by ruining homes and marriages. Final thoughts. A predator without honor. Men like Baltasar aren't real men, they are parasites. They don't build anything, they don't create value, they only destroy. But here's the truth, a real, loyal wife cannot be stolen. If a woman chooses Baltasar over her husband, it means she was never truly loyal to begin with. And that's why, in the end, men like him always end up alone. Because they leave behind nothing but destruction and regret. Will I marry again? At first, after what happened with Isabel, I told myself, never again. I was too broken, too betrayed, too angry to even think about trusting another woman. But time has a way of changing things. Do I still believe in love? Yes. Despite everything, I still believe in love. Isabel betrayed me, but that doesn't mean all women are the same. There are still loyal, honorable women out there, women who value trust, commitment, and real partnership. Do I want to marry again? One day? Maybe. But this time, I will be wiser. I won't rush. I won't ignore red flags. And most importantly, I will choose a woman who values loyalty as much as I do. Lessons I learned from Isabel's betrayal. A good woman cannot be stolen. If she truly loves you, no other man, no matter how rich or powerful, can take her away. Loyalty matters more than love. Love fades, passion comes and goes, but loyalty is what keeps a marriage strong. Never put your work above your relationship. I worked hard to build a life for Isabel, but in doing so, maybe I didn't see the distance growing between us. Next time, I will make sure my woman knows she is valued. The type of woman I would marry again. Loyal and principled, a woman who knows the value of commitment. Emotionally mature, someone who communicates instead of cheating. Independent, not easily swayed by money or power. Loves me for who I am, not what I have. So, will I marry again? Yes, but only for the right woman. I won't rush. I won't settle. And I will never again give my heart to someone who doesn't deserve it. Until then, I will focus on building my own future, stronger, wiser, and better than before. Did Isabel get HIV from Baltasar in Ganga? I don't know for sure, but I wouldn't be surprised. Baltasar in Ganga is known for sleeping with hundreds of women, recording them, and moving on. A man like that doesn't care about protection, consequences, or the lives he destroys. After Isabel admitted everything to me, I thought about it. Did she get infected? Did she even think about the risks? Did she get tested? When she came to Mongomo to see me, she looked sick, thinner, tired, and broken. At the time, I thought it was just guilt and stress, but now I wonder. If she was smart, she would have gotten tested. But then again, she wasn't smart enough to avoid Baltasar in the first place. Did I get tested? Yes. As soon as I left her, I went to a private clinic. I had to be sure. Thankfully, I was clean, because by the time she got involved with him, our marriage was already falling apart and we were barely intimate. That was the only blessing in this entire mess. What if she got HIV? If Isabel got infected, it would be a tragic but fitting consequence of her choices. She gambled with her marriage, her dignity, and possibly her health, all for a man who never cared about her. If she's sick now, she's the one who has to live with it. Not me. The day of my marriage to Isabel. It feels like a lifetime ago now, but I can still remember the day I married Isabel as if it was yesterday. We were young, in love, and full of hope. The wedding was meant to be the start of our forever. The day started like any other. The morning of the wedding, I woke up early. I was nervous, but in a good way. I remember thinking about how lucky I was to have found someone like Isabel, someone who seemed so perfect for me. We had been together for years by then, and it felt like everything had fallen into place. I had no idea what was coming, of course, no hint of the betrayal that would follow. The venue was beautiful, a simple yet elegant church in Malabo, surrounded by our closest friends and family. I'd always imagined a grand ceremony, but we kept it intimate. The people who mattered the most were there, and that was enough. Isabel in her wedding dress. When I first saw her walking down the aisle, I thought I'd never seen anything more beautiful. Isabel looked radiant, almost ethereal. The white dress, the smile, the glow in her eyes, she was everything I had dreamed of. My heart swelled with love as she approached, and I couldn't believe how lucky I was to be marrying her. I remember thinking that this was the best day of my life, a day that would mark the beginning of something great. Little did I know that, over time, everything would crumble. The vows. Standing in front of the priest, I looked at Isabel and made my vows, promising to love her, to be there for her, through everything. I promised I would never leave her, no matter what. I promised to support her dreams, be her rock, and build a future together. It all seemed so real at the time. And when she said her vows to me, I truly believed every word. She spoke of how she loved me, how we were meant to be together. She promised to cherish me, to stay faithful, to build a life full of happiness. The celebration. After the ceremony, we went to a small reception. There was laughter, dancing, and joy. Everyone congratulated us, and I couldn't help but feel like the luckiest man alive. We had friends from all over, some from the mining industry, some from childhood, and they all spoke of how well we fit together. We danced, we celebrated, and I held her close. We were a team. The hopes for the future. I remember thinking that nothing could come between us. We had plans, big ones. We would travel, grow old together, build a family, and live out our dreams. It was a perfect day, a perfect start. But, of course, we didn't know what the future held. In hindsight, it's almost heartbreaking to look back at that day, the vows, the promises, the dreams, and know that they were built on illusions. Because, in the end, it wasn't just a wedding day. It was the beginning of a chapter in my life that would lead to unimaginable pain. The reality. That day was the last time I saw Isabel through the lens of innocence. Over time, she became someone I didn't recognize. The betrayal, the lies, everything that followed changed how I viewed our entire relationship. But on that day, all I could see was a bright future, hand in hand with the woman I thought I knew. I had no way of knowing that in just a few years, everything would fall apart because that was the beginning of a story I never imagined. The day my first child was born was one of the most unforgettable days of my life. It was a day of overwhelming emotions, joy, excitement, fear, and love all intertwined. I had no idea how much my world was about to change. The call. It was a late night when Isabel called me from the hospital. She had been feeling unwell for a few hours, and I could tell by her voice that something was happening. My heart raced as I left work and rushed to the hospital. I remember the feeling of nervous anticipation building inside me the whole way. Was everything going to be okay? Was she okay? Was the baby okay? I didn't know what to expect, but I knew my life was about to be changed forever. Arriving at the hospital. When I arrived, Isabel was already in labor. The doctors and nurses were moving quickly, and I could see the tension in the room. Isabel was exhausted, but there was a look of determination on her face. She squeezed my hand tightly as the contractions grew stronger. It was the first time I saw her in so much pain. It broke my heart to see her go through that, but I knew she was strong. She had always been strong. The moments before birth. I tried to comfort her as best as I could, but I felt helpless. I stood by her side, whispering words of encouragement, trying to ease her fears. We had talked about this day for months, dreamed about it, prepared for it. But now that it was here, it felt so real, so intense. Then, the doctor told us it was almost time. I held my breath. I remember thinking, this is it. My life is about to change. When I heard the baby's first cry, I felt an overwhelming wave of emotion hit me. Tears filled my eyes. I had no words, just pure joy and relief. Our baby had arrived, healthy and strong. They placed our baby in Isabel's arms, and I saw her face light up with love. I will never forget that moment, seeing her, a mother now, holding our child for the first time. There was so much love in that room, so much hope for the future. I couldn't stop smiling. We were parents. I didn't know the baby's gender before the birth. Isabel and I had decided to wait to let the surprise be part of the excitement. I remember holding our baby, his tiny fingers, his small features, and realizing he was a boy. I couldn't help but feel a surge of pride. A son. My son. The first moments as a family. That first night, we stayed in the hospital room together, Isabel holding our baby, and me beside them. We were a family now, and nothing in the world could have made me feel more complete. It was a moment of pure bliss. The worries, the challenges of the future, none of that mattered in those early hours. It was just the three of us, united in that small hospital room. The hope for the future. As we looked at our son, we made silent promises to him. We would love him, protect him, and give him the best life possible. Isabel and I shared dreams of his future, the kind of man he would grow up to be, and how we would guide him every step of the way. That day was the beginning of a new chapter. It was the first day of my life as a father. And even though Isabel's betrayal would come years later, at that moment, I couldn't have been happier. It was the happiest day of my life, one that no betrayal could ever take away.